In today's video, we're going to go for a short hike up to a local temple. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Dylan Colby. In this week's video, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're in the middle of our monsoon season, and although Seoul hasn't had too many beautiful clouds or too much rain, we do have a storm coming in this afternoon that's supposed to bring quite a bit of rain and hopefully some really dramatic clouds. So I thought I would do the short hike up to a local temple and see if I could improve on a composition that I've been trying to get for a while now. So let's get to it. I'm going to jump back in here. As you might have heard, we've had some issues with the audio up there, and what I think it is actually this cable for the Rode Video Micro. On certain angles it seems to work pretty well, on other angles it sort of makes that crackling, and on other angles it just doesn't really deliver any audio at all. So I've got another one of these cables on order and also some wireless mics, so hopefully we won't have those issues in the future. So rather than subject you to me sitting there waffling over that crackling of audio, I thought I'd jump back in and just sort of give you a rundown about what I was talking about. So where we are for this video is a temple called Mangwolsa. It's in the Bukhansan National Park, just north of Seoul here. It's about a 2-kilometer hike, and on the way up I was sort of hearing quite a bit of thunder, and we did have some raindrops, so I was really hoping that we might get that sort of beautiful cloudy weather that really sort of grips that mountain when we do get some rain, but unfortunately we didn't. And so I was talking about my approach to just trying to get something that was maybe a little bit more generic, a little bit similar to what I got last time, but with the higher resolution cameras. The previous time that I went up there, I actually only had my X100 in a little waist pack, and I had absolutely nothing else, so it was a pretty easy climb. But this time around I'd taken my f-stop Guru ultralight backpack, and I had my GFX, I had my tripod, I had the 45 to 100mm lens, and I had my Haida M10 filter kit. So it was a little bit heavier, bit of a harder hike. I was a bit more, say, out of breath when we got up there, but what I was really hoping to get was that sort of dramatic skies and be able to really capture all that detail and just get a sort of a higher resolution, more detailed file with some better dynamic range. But unfortunately the weather didn't really play out, despite you know, all the sounds or the thunder on the way up, and even while I was up there was quite a bit of thunder. But the skies cleared out, and I ended up getting pretty similar shot to what I got with my X100 last time, but with a whole lot more detail obviously from the GFX sensor and being able to shoot it at ISO 100. So there was some decent audio in the middle, so let's jump back to me on the mountain. Alright, so I'm over here a little bit again. The monk is back here having a chat with one of his delivery guys, so I don't want to interrupt that by talking over the top of them. So what I'm going to do, I've still got, there's some more thunder. I've still got some quite dark clouds in the sky, despite the fact of not having a lot of drama in there, and if I do expose for the underside of those awnings, I end up getting quite a blown out sky. So I'm going to throw the 3-stop graduated filter on and just see if I can bring that down a little bit. So I'll show you both of those to give you a bit of a comparison, and we may end up using a polarizer just to take a little bit of the sheen off some of the leaves and just give them a little bit more depth in the shot as well. Final settings here are ISO 100, f16, and 1/1.6, so just a little bit over half a second, and I got a nice surprise there and had to sort of quickly readjust. The monk decided he was going to stand up and go back to the monastery for the evening, so I actually got him walking through the frame. Unfortunately, he didn't go through that beautiful gate in the foreground. He did decide to just sort of circumvent it and take the easy way up, so I got him quite far away, but still, you know, a nice little touch to an image that I wasn't expecting to get so far. So the 3-stop filter up here, just a graduated filter, Haida red diamond, 2-stop filter, sorry, not a 3-stop, is just bringing the sky back into like a bit more of a grey. So, you know, if I do decide to maybe throw some clouds into this in post-production later on, I can do it a little bit more easily without having some blown out edges around the mountain and things like that. So that's going to help with that, but it also helps just to stop the eye from sort of going up there rather than looking at what I want you to look at, which is the temple building. So the next thing that I want to do, now that I've sort of got this classic shot that I came to get, is there's some beautiful rocks in the foreground with just some sort of crevices going through them, and I want to use those as a bit of a leading line to sort of take you from the foreground up into the temple building. So that will take out a little bit of the mountain, but let's see how the composition looks. Okay, so the monk is back. He's actually making a phone call to his father now. It's time for him to ring the bell, so I've just had to shuffle aside so that he can do that, and I'm going to make a few just details of this temple before I head down, before it gets dark. So yeah, I've got my main shot, and we'll take a look at that together, but I want to go around. There's some beautiful artwork. Some of it's sort of very old, very original. I haven't touched it up at all yet, which makes it just beautiful. It's got this kind of worn character to it, so I'm going to go around and just shoot a bit of that. Alright, so I just spent 20 minutes listening to the monk chant before he turns in for the evening. It's about 6 o'clock, so they ring the bell, do a little chanting, and then turn in. And as I was coming back out, I found a composition of the second building of this temple that I've been trying to find a composition for a while now. Basically in an effort to try and remove some metal guardrails that line some stairs leading up to it, I've tried to cover it with some trees and found myself here. Now the one thing that does bring is the beautiful awnings of the main building here come into the shot as well. So I'm going to shoot quite a wide panorama here, and I'll probably drop in the 3-stop filter. We've actually got some beautiful clouds. The storm is completely blown over now, so I'm going to try and include those, and the graduated filter should help with that. And I'll drop in the polarizer as well to just bring the deep greens out of those trees and hopefully a little bit more blue into the sky. Again, the microphone failed me here at the end, but basically I was just trying to wrap up and say that I was going to try and get down this precarious mountain before it got too dark, and that hopefully I was going to be coming back up here in, you know, if we get some, maybe a typhoon or some extra rainy weather, that I'd go back up there and try to get exactly what I wanted. And then maybe even at some time during the winter when there's a little bit of snow on the peaks and snow on the roofs and things like that, I thought it might be a good hike for that. So definitely going to go back and try to get a version of this that fits my vision a little bit better. The country of South Korea is about 66% mountainous, so during our monsoon season that we have sort of July, August every year, we typically get some really beautiful clouds that sort of cover those mountains, and they come down really low, and you get these sort of dreamy looking landscapes where the peaks are sort of popping out of the clouds and things like that. And so that even happens in the mountains around Seoul. And so this is the mountain that I was up on during last year's monsoon season, had these beautiful clouds over it, and this lasted for a couple of weeks. It was absolutely gorgeous. So I was hoping a little bit of that would happen this time, but unfortunately it didn't, so definitely going to be going back there. But for today's shot, what I wanted to do was just get a really nice version of the shot that I'd got last time. And so when you're up there, there's not a lot of places that you can stand. There's quite a few fences, quite a few trees that block the view. And so you've pretty much got a 2 or 3 meter place that you can stand to get a shot where all of those buildings kind of line up and you can see the mountain in the background. So it's just a case of sort of going back and forth and finding the exact alignment of the roofs that you like, and then, you know, picking a focal length that sort of brings those together. So I chose to use the 45mm focal length because it's the widest that I have for the GFX, and it allowed me to get that gate in the foreground in as well as the mountain in the background. Now, ideally I would love to have had the 30mm or the 32 to 64mm for the GFX, but I don't own either of those, so I wasn't able to take those with me. That would have allowed me to get a bit more of the sky in, especially if the sky gets a little bit more dramatic. It would also allow me to include a little bit more of that rock in the foreground that you saw, but didn't have those, so the case was here trying to basically include that front gate, include a little bit of the building on the left hand side there, not so much that I got the modern sign that's been sort of hammered into the wall there, and stopping it on the right hand side before you start to see the fence and the other bits and pieces like the modern loudspeaker and things. I actually believe that the loudspeaker is still in this, and I'm meaning to clone it out, but basically those things are the things that I wanted to try and get out of it, and also try and basically move my angle to the point where I'd get as little of that metal fence and the water pipes, the modern water pipes that are there as possible, as those sort of things don't really add to the composition for me. Unfortunately, there's no real way to completely remove them, as they sort of cover the wall that holds that second building up, or the main building up, so you can't really get them out of the composition, but including as little of them as possible and then giving them a little burn in post-production so that you're able to not really look at them too much. I mean, you could clone them out, I guess, but that's a lot of work for something that I don't think would really change the composition too much. So one more thing that I was battling with was there is a little sign in the bottom right hand corner of the composition, and if you bring the camera down any lower or tilt down any lower to get a little bit more space beneath that gate in the front there, what you end up with is that sign kind of poking in and covering up the nice rock wall that's there. So again, it's something that you could clone out, and if you were using a wider angle lens like I wanted to, you probably would have to clone that out or just sort of leave it there and deal with it. But I was trying to remove that as much as possible by just composing it out. Now in the second shot where I got down low, I was able to mostly cover up that sign with that beautiful rock. Now unfortunately those ridges didn't quite point at the temple as I might have wanted, and if you get down low enough to cover up that sign, you end up also covering up part of the little gate in the foreground there. So not my favorite composition, but it might work a little bit better with a wider angle lens if you could get a little bit closer to it, still cover up that sign, but allow you to see the whole gate. So perhaps if I invest in, say, a 30mm in the future, I may be able to work towards that shot a little bit more, but for now, that's the best that I could get with the 45mm focal length. So I'd like to ask you guys, which one do you prefer? The one where you can see the whole gate in the foreground, or the one with the rock in the foreground? Let me know in the comments and let me know why. So audio issues aside, I hope you've enjoyed this slightly different take on what I usually do on the channel. I do plan to make quite a few more of these now that I have a way to do a little bit of vlogging and get some audio outdoors. So I'll be doing a few cycling trips as the weather starts to cool down, and hopefully we'll be able to take you guys along to see a little bit more of Korea. As always, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers!